Welcome, everyone, to Color Commentary. We are your popper commentators, Michael Petrick and Adrian Guarzales. How's it going, Adrian?
Line. Can I get a lot? Can I get the line?
I think it's usually good.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
I was a theater major.
Yes, you were. But yeah, let's get into the upkeep stuff. Our weekly list of things we got to take care of. First up, Adrian, can I ask you something? Do you like art?
Yeah.
Well,
I'll think of something better for this next week.
Well, let me tell you, Original Magic Art is a great website with a lot of merchandise with both art from Magic's history as well as classical art pieces from well-known artists throughout the history of the world. They even have a Pauper token collection that features a whole bunch of cool art and is specifically suited for our format, sort of cherry-picked options, if you will. That said, if you want to save 5% on your next order of sweet Magic accessories, playmats, dice bags, tokens, what have you, you can use the affiliate code Commontary, spelled exactly as it is in our podcast name, and you'll get 5% off your order, and we also get a little kickback. So you're helping out one of your hopefully favorite podcasts.
Give me a break. Give me a break. Breaking off a piece of that kickback bar.
All right. I mean,
that's the jingle I wrote just now.
I'm glad we don't monetize our videos on YouTube because I'm worried we'd get flagged, but you know,
it's parody. It's parody.
I guess
I changed the word.
That does fall in somewhat into parody.
Fair use.
Yeah, that's how that law works. What do you have coming up for us this week, Adrian?
Well, I probably got another weekly play video.
Any idea what you're playing?
I never do until I'm sitting down in front of the computer.
You have literally on this show before told people what you are going to be playing, but
well,
okay.
Sometimes I'm wrong.
And lastly, we are on Patreon. You've heard this 1,000 times before. Patreon is a platform similar to Kickstarter for ongoing projects. You can choose to support us at any monetary value over $1 per episode, and there are rewards for you. You know, you can ask us to do stuff on the show if you donate more than a certain amount. It's a great way to help us support the show and kind of justify its continued existence. But you can donate any amount you want per episode. You can even set a monthly cap so that you don't get charged more than a certain amount per month. And it's a really solid platform. It helps us, you know, make upgrades to the show slowly, and we do really appreciate it. You also, if you donate enough, you get to listen to these episodes early and uncut with our babbling rants at the beginning where we talk about our lives.
Oh, there was a big rant at the beginning of this one. You were missing out.
Yeah. But if you are listening to this on Patreon, I guess you already knew that. All right. So let's get into it. So I was away last week. We pre-recorded some episodes. I went to sunny California. I relaxed a lot, and I actually wound up
rode a longboard, ate some pineapple.
Really?
Those are two things. Those are two things Mike hates. Everyone.
Yes. I'm just not a big fan of pineapple because it makes my mouth hurt. But
you probably have an allergy.
I might. That is a fair point.
Have you heard of mango mouth?
No. I'm good with mangoes though.
Well, mango mouth is, I mean, it's probably something similar. Mango mouth is some people are allergic to one of the chemicals in mangoes, and it causes their mouth to go numb, or hurt. So they don't eat mango. But that's you should look it up after the show.
I definitely will. I may look it up during the show if you happen to go on a particularly large tangent. But while I was there, I actually got to play a bunch of Magic because I tweaked my emulated Windows setup in my Macintosh computer, and it did not try to quit out on me every 5 minutes. But I got to play a bunch of Dimir Alchemy, and that deck is pretty sweet.
What's your favorite deck?
It is now more than ever a deck that I really enjoy because Augur of Bolas makes that deck significantly better.
And you're finally playing a good deck.
I mean, the stuff I have on MitGo is White Weenie, which admittedly not the world's greatest deck. I have Boros, I have Kaldatha Boros, and now I have Dimir Alchemy. So I got a decent smattering of okay to good decks. How was F&M and assorted other play experiences for you this week?
Very good, as always. And I 4-1 with my Boggles video, so that was good. F&M, I ended up splitting. But yeah, I mean, I'm still jamming Boros tokens, and until people figure out how to beat it, I guess, by everyone playing Tron, I will continue to play it.
Is that just the absolute worst matchup for it?
It is, and I did beat it last week, which was good. I think the Monarch really helps, but I don't think that's a very good matchup. Unfortunately, we have a very limited number of Tron players, so
what variant?
We had a weird F&M. We had Turbo Fog and something. What's the other? Free from the Real. Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was gonna just ask, like, which of the Tron variants in particular? Is it just Tron manages to go bigger, quicker, and deploy better threats than you?
Oh yeah, they can just go over the top really easy.
Okay, that makes sense. This week we do have kind of a spicy little number for a deck tech. A deck that I didn't ever think we'd cover on this show because it's admittedly before now not super great. But we've got a list here from MitGo user F&M World Champion. And this is Tireless Tribe combo. It's been having some success in the leagues as well as the challenges, and it's this weird little combo deck. It revolves around this one card, Tireless Tribe, which is a white for a 1/1. Discard a card from your hand. It gets +0/+4 until end of turn, and then effects that let you swap its power and toughness. So the idea is get one of these out, make it unblockable somehow, pitch your entire hand, turn it into a 24/1, and swing in. So a little bit glass cannon-y, but it's been putting up numbers. So here we are talking about it. Do you have any opinions about this deck, Adrian?
It's a kind of like Delver Fiend in a way. Although I guess that deck would be more adequately called Cyclops Fiend or Fiend Clops these days, because I don't think they're actually playing Delver anymore. Where yeah, you're just trying to make a big threat unblockable and attack for a bunch of damage at once. This deck is cool because it's not really a blue-white deck. It's really a blue deck that happens to have 8 white cards.
Yeah, and part of that is the fact that it does get you, obviously the Tireless Tribe is necessary, but as we'll get into, it also does open up some sideboard options for you.
Yeah.
And
some good sideboard options.
Yeah. Some weak points within blue's part of the color pie. And it also, the fair warning, this one does have a transformative sideboard in it. So we'll get to that when we get to it. But so we've got the 4 Tireless Tribe, namesake of the deck, and only real win con in the main deck. And then we got 4 copies of Squadron Hawk. Squadron Hawk is 1 and white for 1/1 flying. When it enters the battlefield, you get to tutor up to 3 copies of Squadron Hawk into your hand. And as we were talking about this before the podcast, in this deck, the best part of this is it's a 2-mana draw 3 cards. And normally that's kind of, a joke, haha, it's Ancestral Recall, but you always get 3 birds.
It's true, you do.
But in this case, it's basically a 2-mana Ancestral Recall.
Well, I mean, if you have 2 in your hand, then it's a 2-mana Thought Cast. And if you have 3 in your hand, then it's a 2-mana cantrip. I don't know. I see what you're saying, though. I get the argument.
What is it? Reach Through Mists? Is that just the one? I guess not even that, because it's not instant speed either. But meandering here,
we digress.
Squadron Hawk in this deck, you do care somewhat about the quality of your cards, but you do also, in some cases, just need extra cards, and it doesn't really matter what they are. Moving into the spells, we got 4 copies of Brainstorm, 1 blue instant, draw 3, put 2 from your hand on top of your library. This
classic.
Yeah. The fixed Ancestral Recall, right? This is a totally fair and balanced card.
Right.
We've talked about this. It is actually much more fair and balanced in our format where you don't have fetch lands.
Fetch plans. Right.
But it does synergize with Squadron Hawk on both sides. You can, cast a Brainstorm on an end step, Squadron Hawk during the next turn to shuffle some of the stuff away. You can also, for example, Squadron Hawk, get 3 Hawks to your hand, Brainstorm, put 2 of the Hawks back, Squadron Hawk, get back the 2 Hawks, and shuffle your library. So,
yeah, it's a pretty sweet little interaction.
Yeah. Next up, we have 2 copies of Dispel, blue, counter target instant. This is a very glass cannon-y deck, as I said before. It really just has one win con main deck, so this is definitely more useful here to sort of deal with that instant speed interaction, especially with Bolt and Scred being so popular in the format right now.
Right. And there is a moment where your tribe is very vulnerable to those spells. It's even vulnerable to a gut shot, honestly.
Yeah. So you definitely want to pack some sort of super dirt cheap way to keep your win con safe. Next, we have 4 Gitaxian Probe. It is 1 blue Phyrexian for a sorcery. Look at target player's hand, draw a card. It is a free spell. It cycles. In this case, it is worth it to, play a functionally 56 card deck because you do only, again, really have 4 win cons. So being able to kind of cheat around that, and also the information you glean from it is useful. You can figure out if your opponent has the answer for you and if you should try to go off right now or wait. So pretty solid here.
Yeah, I would say so. Worst case, you draw the card or you pitch it to the Tireless Tribe, or you pitch the draw card or you just pitch the probe. It really doesn't matter. That's kind of what's kind of cool about this deck is even with the extra cards, you can just pitch them to the tribe at a later date.
Yeah. And then we've got 2 Ponders, 4 Preordains. We know them, we love them. Our 1 mana cantrips. We got 4 copies of Shadow Rift, which is blue, target creature gains shadow until end of turn, draw a card. This is a fan favorite from the blue-red Blitz decks. There are not many. Actually, I can't think of any shadow creatures that are commonly played in Pauper. I've definitely seen...
No. There's the Dothy in the black beatdown deck, but that's about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the only place I've ever seen them... It's a shame because Luteril Core is actually a common, and that card is a house in assorted cubes.
Cube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I like looters. I'm a fan. Next, we have 1 copy Slip Through Space. It's a sorcery. Target creature is unblockable until end of turn. Draw a card. And it also has Devoid, which is sometimes relevant in our format because we are a Pyroblast inclusive format.
So, consideration for Artful Dodge. Artful Dodge, you could discard with the tribe and then flash it back.
Okay.
So this flashback is blue. I wonder why Artful... I mean, obviously drawing the card is good, but it seems to me that Artful Dodging, discarding the Artful Dodge and then flashing it back might be a little bit better because it pumps your guy one more time. What do you think?
Well, you still get the pump, don't you? Because both of those other ones draw you a card after they resolve. So you're still at card parity no matter what you do.
Sure. Okay. And also, yeah, the Devoid mechanic is good here.
Yeah, I think Artful Dodge is probably, fairly close to Slip Through Space in terms of quality. For what it's worth, if you pitch it, it can't be countered because flashback still casts it. Never mind. I'm a big old turkey. I was thinking of Embalmment.
Yeah, big old Twikey.
Yeah, no, I goofed, but I caught it. Next we have Impulse, 1 in a blue. Look at the top 4 cards of the library and pick 1, goes to the hand. The rest get shuffled or go back in a random order at the bottom of your library, I believe. Let me
Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. Yeah, it used to be that you shuffled it afterwards, and that didn't make any freaking sense.
Actually, small aside, it was never actually meant to be that. That's how it was templated originally, and it apparently went to press without anyone fixing it, even though playtest at Wizards had changed it to not shuffle.
Well, it just doesn't make any sense. Why would you put them on the bottom and then shuffle your library?
I mean, if it put it on the top, would it be any different? I mean, it's
not really.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. It would be different if it put it on the top and you didn't shuffle. Then it would be way different.
No, I'm talking about if you shuffled. It doesn't really matter where they go. It just matters that they get back into your deck.
Right. Okay, sure.
But yeah, Impulse, super great dig spell. Just lets you see a lot of cards and get the relevant ones. And since this is, again, a combo deck that requires very specific pieces to function correctly, it does really benefit you to have a way to to see a lot of cards and get the ones you actually need out of there. Next up, we have 4 copies of Inside Out, which is 1 and a hybrid blue-red, or in this case, 1 and a blue, because you are never generating red mana in this deck. And all it is switch target. It's an instant switch target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. Draw a card. This
you use it to kill an 0-4 if you're not careful.
Yeah, you can do all sorts of goofy things with this. But notably, Inside Out is our win con, right? There's no way to really reliably win with this deck outside of flipping the power and toughness. Lastly, we got an interesting, spicy little inclusion. Oh, excuse me, not lastly. There's one in the next row. We've got a Circular Logic, which is 2 and a blue, instant, counter target spell unless the controller plays 1 for each card in your graveyard. But it has Madness blue. And this one is interesting because you're pitching your whole hand anyway. Why not have a 1 mana counter spell that you can keep up when you've just pitched preferably a full hand into the graveyard? Like, this is just a hard counter for blue in my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good.
I'm also a little... okay, here you go. I do want to bring this up because you mentioned Artful Dodge earlier. What about I am bricking on the name of this because it is a old card and I need to look it up very quickly. I want to say it's Obsessive Search. Yes, Obsessive Search, which is another card with Madness, and it's a blue instant draw card, Madness for a blue. I mean, it's not the world's greatest, but it does kind of do that thing of doing 2 things at once. I don't know.
Yeah, you discard it and then you replace it. So it's just like discard fodder. I guess my problem with this doesn't really do anything.
That's true. It doesn't really affect the actual game state at all. Just something I was thinking of. And lastly, for the spells, we got 2 copies of Gush. Gush has the cost of return 2 islands you control to your hand, draw 2 cards. It's functionally a draw 4 on your combo turn.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Not really much subtlety to this. It is a powerful card. Is it restricted in Vintage again? I always forget.
Probably. Yes, I want to say. I don't know. It's banned in Legacy.
It's banned in Legacy. We're the only ones who really get to play it. I just want to see Vintage restricted list. Because this is the one that I always get wrong because I can never remember whether or not they've got it restricted at any given moment. Vintage. Yeah, Gush is currently restricted. So yeah, you get to play a card that is too good for Vintage. Land
to be fair, Brainstorm is also restricted in Vintage.
It is. Although, again, with fetch lands and potentially drawing into multiple pieces of power, the power level delta there is pretty real. As far as our land base, 19 total lands, 3 copies of Ash Barrens, 9 islands, 4 plains, 3 Terramorphic Expanse. You know, we've got shuffle effects in there so that you can get the maximum value out of your brainstorm, and that's really it. Anything you've got on this land base?
No, not really.
All right, let's move into the sideboard. So we got 2 extra copies of Dispel for, you know, those games where when you realize your opponent is on, I don't know, blue-red Delver, and really need to be able to interact with their pile of cheap red removal. And for similar purposes, 3 Hydroblasts. Then we can get into the white stuff. So because we're running 4 planes, we do get access to some neat sideboard tech. We've got 2 copies of Disenchant and 4 copies of Prismatic Strands. And Prismatic Strands is neat because it does let you survive a little longer so that you can actually combo off.
And you can discard it and then tap your Tireless Tribe.
True. Or you can tap that Squadron Hawk that you use to get 3 more cards to your hand so that you could get the lethal damage. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's some tech.
Yeah. And lastly, this deck has a transformative sideboard in the form of 4 copies of Jace's Erasure.
Oh, yeah.
This is goofy, and I kind of dig it. It's, you know, it's not perhaps the best, but it certainly does things.
Hold up. I mean, it's not the best, maybe. Let's look at our cantrips. We have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We have 21 cantrips in the deck. Impulse doesn't count because Impulse doesn't actually draw you a card.
Yep.
But we have 21 cantrips in the deck. It's not inconceivable that you can win with Jace's Erasure against a deck like Mono Black, which is probably what you're boarding it in against. Is it just, you know, decks with a lot of really heavy removal, like control decks that are very dirtily, and have a lot of removal against your tribe combo.
Yeah, that is certainly true. And you
could just 1-for-1 swap them.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have any way to interact with their stuff. And
you have more cantrips. Inside Out draws you a card. I wasn't counting that.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Brainstorm is 3 triggers on Jace's Erasure, and preferably, you know, you're doubling up on these things. I don't think it's, you know, Pauper definitely doesn't have as many transformative sideboards, but it's always neat to see them.
Indubitably.
All right, so this deck is certainly interesting. There have been versions of this that I've seen that kind of go the less all-in route, where it's like, all right, I'm going to play a bunch of good white spells, Delver, and counter spells, and we're going to see if we can make that work. I've definitely also seen... It's weak?
It's weak. I want all in.
All right. But there's also a version that uses... and again, I'm going to blank on this because it has been ages since I would have played in a format with this. There is no, it's that weird cleric tribal card. Daru Spiritualist. So Daru Spiritualist is 1 and a white for a 1/1. Whenever a cleric you control becomes the target of a spell or ability, it gains +0/+2 until end of turn. And if we go, what are they? Is it the Ildal? No, it's not the Ildal. It's the Encore. That's who it is. And then you play this alongside Nomad's Encore, which is white for a 1/1, and it has the ability 0. The next 1 damage that would be dealt to Nomad's Encore this turn is dealt to target creature you control instead. So you can activate this infinitely and just pump up any cleric you have to an absurdly high amount of toughness, and then you just swing in, and if they don't have anything, you put them well into the negatives. So I've definitely seen variations on this, but it always kind of suffers from the issue of removal is really good against you.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting deck.
So what could we do? Like, what tweaks could be made to this? Because one of the things I noticed is we've got a decent amount of like instant. There's the Dispels main deck, and obviously, you know, we're creating this.
Why are we playing Squadron Hawk instead of Augur Bolus?
Okay, so
that's one thing I can think of.
Augur Bolus gets us potentially 1 out of the 3 cards with 33 instants and sorceries. It's pretty likely to hit.
I'm also checking out some of the other builds. They're playing Dizzy Spell, which is for target creature gets -3/-0 until end of turn, but it also has Transmute. So I imagine you can use that to get Tireless Tribe. And also Giga Drouse, which is for tap target permanent, replicate you. So replicate is a mechanic that isn't mechanic from the original Ravnica block, I believe from Guild Pact specifically. And you pay an additional, the replicate cost to cast additional copies of the spell.
Yeah, it's kind of manual storm is what I've always joked about it. But this is something that also sees play in Freed from the Real, another sort of fairly fragile to removal combo deck, and it definitely has a place there. It definitely has a place here. There's also the interesting thing is these are now all blue-white decks. There is also the option to go with a splash of red because there's a handful of other spells that do the whole switch power and toughness. The one that comes to mind immediately is About Face, which is just red instant switch target creature's power and toughness until end of turn, which actually also has the sweet little bit of reminder text. Do you know what happens if you pump up your tribe to lethal and you swing in and your opponent targets it with, say, a bolt and you have 2 cards left in hand? What happens if you try and pitch those cards to save it?
Oh, is it not going to pump the toughness?
No, whenever you swap a creature's power and toughness, that actually makes all boosts like that work in reverse until it reverts. Weird little rule interactions. There's also Merfolk Thaumaturgist, which is 2 and a blue for a 1/2 tap, switch target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. So this doesn't require you to play a card out of your hand, but it does. Wait a second. Hold on. Never mind. I was just looking through this. I forgot to restrict my little search here to only pauper legal stuff because there is that uncommon Twisted Image, which is just blue, switch a creature's power and toughness, and draw a card, which is
that has been used to kill spell skites in Modern.
Really?
Yep.
That
seems
seems
like
like
some sweet tech.
That seems like very narrow tech. Was Spellskite really that big of an issue?
I think it was mostly played in like infect decks.
Yeah. That's neat. Oh yeah, because the infect decks can just have their pump spells redirected onto
Spellskite.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're getting at here. But
I think you would definitely play Twisted Image over Inside Out if you could.
Yeah.
There's
no real reason not to, right?
Yeah, it's just better.
Also, as a side note, an interesting card I didn't know existed, Phantasmal Fiend. 3 and a black for a 1/5. Black Phantasmal Fiend gets +1/-1 until end of turn, and 1 and a blue, swap its power and toughness until end of turn. That is
nice.
A bizarre old card. The art is also amazingly awful. Apologies to, what is this? Scott. I can't even read that.
What is this card?
Phantasmal Fiend.
That card is pretty bad. I know which one that is.
Apologies to Scott Kirshner. I'm sure you have done some wonderful art in your day, but this one was a miss, buddy. This was not a rousing success by any standards. But regardless, we're getting way off track here. And
it's got the little flowstone ability.
Yeah. That still shows up from time to time. That's still a chunk of Red's color pie. But let's try and wrap this up with Tireless Tribe combo. Why is it good right now? Why are we now seeing what I would definitely describe as jank, not winning outright these challenges, but placing well into the top 32? What about the meta right now has actually placed us in a position where we're weak to an all-in 1 creature combo?
I don't know, because in the face of Scred Delver, it doesn't seem very good at all. We have Counterspell and Daze and Scred and Bolt.
Well, so I mean,
It seems like this deck would just fold to those cards.
Your main decking, like all those things that you just mentioned, your main decking dispels. Like
2 dispels. Let's be 2 dispels.
Your main decking 2 dispels, but how many cards are you drawing in the average game? Like you're going to churn through your library as quickly as possible to try and get to the important bits, and dispel is arguably an important bit in certain matchups.
I just don't think I think you're overstating 2 dispels in a deck that's full of counter magic and removal. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems that you could just hold back your spells until a time where you could kill a Tireless Tribe. And it's not like they have just one of them, right? Like their hand's going to have more than one most of the time. I don't know. I'm sure the deck obviously is winning. I just, that's my take on it.
Yeah, it's, I think part of this is also the fact that I think that this benefits kind of from the rogue deck effect where, we've talked about it on the podcast before. We're both big fans of Pig Trinket, and one of the things that I found playing that deck a lot in paper was people would play suboptimally because it was not something they were familiar with, and it was attacking on just slightly different enough of an axis. Like you're not quite sure what's going on until it could be potentially too late.
Sure. Okay. I can see that.
Now, also
the rogue element.
Let me hit you with this. Tireless Tribe, you can always just pitch stuff to it if you're not comboing out. Like, is it just the fact that this thing can get out of reach of the red removal spells? Like, you can pitch 2 cards to this, save it from Bolt, pitch, I guess, 3 cards to it, save it from...
I guess you also have circular
Blast.
logic. That helps too.
Yeah, I think it's not... I wouldn't call it resilient. It's still a very glass cannon-y sort of deck. But I think the fact that we're seeing a metagame with less edict effects, we're kind of seeing that only out of Dimir Alchemy, and we're definitely seeing a lot more red removal, which Tireless Tribe can interact with favorably. I think that's what's doing it. If I had to, pin a finger on anything, I think it's just that it's just good enough versus the removal that's doing well in this format right now. That and the fact that it attacks on an axis that a deck might not be prepared to deal with. And, if you just steal game 1 off someone because they've never seen Tireless Tribe combo before, you're up a game. That means they have to rally back and beat you twice in a row in order to actually get that match. So I think it's a bit of the rogue element, and I think it's a bit like if red removal's good, Tireless Tribe stock goes up.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
All right. So what is this? What is this weird deck that we've talked about at length going to set you back? In paper, $49. Online, $43. I'm looking through here. In paper, the expensive chunks of this deck are going to be your Preordains, your Gataxian Probes, Circular Logic, surprisingly, and Ash Barons. Oh, and the Gushes. All of these are playable in other decks. Circular Logic's probably the least playable out of them, but if you ever want to, toss together a Madness deck, Circular Logic is kind of always a cornerstone of those sorts of builds. So I'd say, I'm looking at this like it's a pile of cantrips. If you're ever going to build another blue deck, this is just fine. The only thing in here that I've never seen in another deck besides this is Tireless Tribe. Every other part of this deck sees play
even
other places.
Inside Out.
Oh, not Inside Out. I guess that's correct.
Even Inside Out. Yeah, you're right. The rest of them are good in other decks too.
And in reality, Tireless Tribe and Inside Out, the 2 bits of it that do not go into many other decks, in paper are going to be $1.40, and online are less than $1. So, if you're buying this, you're mostly buying into stuff that you're going to get use out of anyway. So,
right.
I would say if this sort of nail biting glass cannon combo deck is up your alley, I'd try it out. Yeah, yeah. If this is your thing, if this is how you're gonna, enjoy Pauper, I'd say just go for it. Also, wow, didn't know Impulse was kind of pricey online. Oh no, I did. We talked about this, not on the show, but
Yeah.
in general, in life, in the non-podcasting hours. All right. So we've talked about Inside Out, and
we like it.
yeah, I kind of like it. It's neat. I don't know if it's here to stay. We'll see as time goes on. See if the metagame adapts at all, or it's not currently a huge force within the metagame. It's currently 2.76% of the meta. So sitting there on Goldfish, it is at 11th in the metagame after some really, really quality decks. But pretty respectable for a deck that I would have laughed at months ago. So
yeah,
good on the people playing this deck. Keep at it. Keep brewing them spicy decks that somehow get there, even if I can't fathom it. Let's move on to some of our discussion topics. First thing, I didn't put this in the upkeep because I felt awkward putting it there. I may start streaming. I finally managed to, as I mentioned before, tweak around my settings for my emulated Windows environment. And I managed to run OBS and MitGo concurrently without having anything crash. So I may stream, time dependent. I, lead a fairly busy life when it comes to my free time. Next up, they're adjusting how leagues are reported. Do you want to fill people in on this one, Adrian?
Sure. So starting on the 10th, which will have already happened, obviously, by the time you get this, in fact, it's already happened now. They are only going to be displaying 5 decks, and the other stipulation is that those decks have to be at least 10 different cards versus from one another instead of a random 10 decks. So they're looking to showcase more decks, which is nice. The worry, of course, is that we won't really be able to get a great picture of the metagame. Not that the one we had was really that great to begin with.
Yeah, and it kind of puts us in this awkward position of, let's say there's a day where only 3 results get published, and it's Blue Red Delver, Stompy, and Kalatha Boros Monarch. Looking at that number, the first thing you can say is, oh, well, only 3 decks actually 5-0'd today. But then there's also the chance of, well, was it 3 decks 5-0ing, or were there a whole bunch of 5-0s by Blue Red Delver, and because of this stipulation, only one of them got reported? Or, were there a couple of each of these, and they just happened to be the only thing that 5-0'd today? It just kind of puts it in this awkward position. For example, even further than that, if we get a full 5, we have no idea if those decks were represented multiple times, one time, I get what they're trying to do with this, but I really wish that they would, because what was their cited reason again? It's basically standard, right?
Yeah, standard is just ruining everything for everyone else is really what's going on.
Yeah, the idea is standard gets solved, quote unquote, too quickly because there's an overabundance of information out there. And Wizards doesn't like that, so they're restricting information, and for some reason they have decided that this is a good thing to do to eternal non-rotating formats that generally move pretty slowly compared to standard in terms of, reaching an equilibrium where things are static. Because once standard gets into its groove, it kind of sticks there for a while until a set rotates or a banning happens, which is apparently now more common than ever. Because now instead of us getting to talk about our bannings, we talk about tangential bannings in standard. I digress heavily, but I think this is overall a bad thing for our format and especially for data collection.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree more. Getting to look at less things is not good.
Yeah, and the 10 card thing, I get why you would do that, but it just feels like, if someone has a really spicy take on a deck and they're 9 cards different and the machine randomly chooses the more the more commonly played version of, a mainstay archetype. We just don't get to see that deck, and that's kind of not good. This is my like official request. If anyone from Wizards is listening, just give us all the results for the 5-0s.
We want more results, not less.
Yeah, like give us the 5-0s and the 4-1s. Like, just give us everything out of the leagues that we can possibly want. Like, I'm not interested in the 3-2s and below, just because those are okay, but then you're just kind of picking through a lot of data. But just give us a bunch of stuff. It's really great that we have the challenges now, because we're getting to see top 32, which actually encompasses in many cases down to like 4-3. So, a technically winning record, but not super great. So we're definitely getting a lot more information than we were on specific events. So, I know no one from Wizards is listening. If you are, data is good for eternal formats.
We beg you.
Yeah. Just let us finally answer these questions that we have talked about too many times on this podcast. Next up, I think we should maybe keep this as a recurring segment, just because I think it's good for people to be aware of. We had our first card show up from Hour of Devastation in a 5-0, and that is Firebrand Archer, the Thermo Alchemist adjacent Spells Matter red card. And
it was in Burn.
It was in Burn, yeah. And surprisingly, because we had talked at length on our set review about this card, and is it better than Thermo Alchemist? Which one do you play in Burn? And according to this person, whose name I am just about to grab here, according to, oh God, never mind. According to MitGo user Fwib, it's FWWWWIBIB. According to them, the answer is both.
Fwib.
Yeah. That's a doozy of a name. And I'm looking at it, and it's a pretty standard burn list. The only thing is their creature suite is 8 copies of a Thermo Alchemist-esque effect. They are running a lower count of Curse of the Pierced Heart. Time will tell if this actually is a sticking thing, or if this is, someone ran hot with a new card from a new set. So
yeah, because I think Thermo Alchemist is still better, because I think that the other card requires a lot more to be good. But I mean, if it works, right? So
I was going to say, like, there are certain situations where Firebrand Archer is going to be better. If your opponent's at 5 life, you have a Fire Blast in hand, and you play this thing beforehand, like, they're dead. That is true.
Whib.
You're just really enjoying that one, that mouth feel.
I am sorry.
So I still think in a vacuum, Thermo Alchemist is the better card, just because a 2-1 is unlikely to get in for damage in a format like Pauper. And on top of that, if you are hellbent and you're top decking and you're not hitting spells, Thermo Alchemist is at least another copy of Curse of the Pierced Heart. That said, that's obviously not your ideal, but I don't know. I'm interested to see if Firebrand Archer takes off, if it replaces Thermo Alchemist, if the two get to live together in happy harmony. I know earlier we were talking about, what was it?
Kill the Marauders. Yeah, which has a higher upside if it sticks around.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing Thermo Alchemist and you go Kill the Marauders and your opponent uses a removal spell on it, I feel like you're pretty happy about that, because you're going to resolve the more consistent source of damage.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I think if Kill the Marauders doesn't get in, you're either eating an opponent's creature because they blocked with it. You're getting in for a full 5, or they've wasted a removal spell on something that was dying anyway.
Yeah, because it hurts a lot more to lose the even the Archer over like a Kill the Marauder.
Yeah.
Because that's a real thing that you kind of wanted to stick around.
Yeah. I'm going to be interested to see, I'm going to just throw this out there, and I'm willing to be totally wrong on this, and I'm sure people will tell me I am. What about Firebrand Archer in Blue Red Blitz?
Oh my God, you're so wrong.
Like
I don't think so, because why not Thermo Alchemist and Blue Red Blitz, you know?
Because Blue Red Blitz is kind of a one and done. Like, I know it dilutes the quality of spells in the deck, but I'm just sitting here thinking, like, you know, this turns your cantrips into 1 extra point of damage. It ups the output every spell that deck casts in terms of damage. And I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. If it happens, I am your messiah and you must worship me. If it doesn't, I was wrong and I can live with that.
You're just like every other person who plays Magic.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm looking at this list. I forgot that Molten Rain got a reprint with like sweet new art.
I like the old one better. TBH.
The old one's more magic, but I dig the new Molten Rain. It's very dark and moody, but I don't know. Opinions, they're wide and varied.
Opinions, Mike has them.
We all have them. It's the amazing thing about them, and they can't be wrong. You can't be wrong about your opinion, Adrian.
I objectively think that's false. Ayo.
Well, that's just your opinion, so I can't tell you it's wrong.
That's just like your opinion, man.
In all seriousness, so the other thing that we have to talk about is we finished our first season of leagues. We got through the Amonkhet season of sorry, not leagues, challenges. Goodness.
Oh, leagues. Seasons. It took me a second to realize what you meant by seasons, but I understand now.
Yeah, the period between set releases. Friend of the show, all around good guy, Alex Allman.
Good egg. All around good egg.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All around good egg. He's got a really good breakdown of his impression of the implications gleaned from data. And there's some interesting stuff. We were talking a little bit about before the show. Affinity isn't good in the challenges right now. Like,
no, it is not.
And that's definitely a deck that I would consider like a staple of Pauper.
I agree, and maybe it's just because I have such a history with the deck, but I was sad, but not really that surprised.
Do you want to elucidate for the folks at home why you think this isn't doing well?
I think it's not doing well because I think the removal is really good right now, but more importantly, all these decks are playing Gorilla Shaman. How is Affinity like absolutely folds the Gorilla Shaman? And if every red deck is playing it in its sideboard, it's going to be real hard for Affinity to win a big tournament.
And here's the thing: even if you don't have the Gorilla Shamans, like, you know, you're seeing Kalatha or Boros decks that are running Ancient Grudge out of the board. We've got Stompy with I bricked hard on this one. The double disenchant.
Gleeful Sabotage. Thank
you. You've just got a lot of stuff that's gonna easily prey upon a very artifact heavy and artifact reliant deck. So it's definitely interesting. And again, like, you know, when you're turning a chunk of your opponent's sideboard into just Stone Rains, that can really, really hurt you. Interesting other things. And again, check out Alex's article. He uses the Karsten scores, a method developed by Frank Karsten, who is a magic numbers guy and
very famous pro.
Yeah, very very cool work. I definitely really enjoy his articles because he does some cool stuff. Not that long ago, he did an article called "What if every creature in Magic entered the battlefield at the same time?" That was kind of neat.
Yeah, it was a really interesting thought experiment, actually. So check it out if you haven't seen it.
The funny thing is, if I remember correctly, it's nothing happens, right?
I think like everything dies or something. But
yeah,
then everything comes back. I don't know. It was weird.
I think if I remember correctly, the issue is Hushwing Griff, the creature that says enter the battlefield abilities don't trigger.
Yeah, it was something crazy. I don't know. Check it out. It's cool.
But anyway, the Karsten score is the number of wins minus your losses. So, you know, if a deck goes 4-1, its K score is, or 4-3, its K score is 1. Versus or a deck that goes 5-2, K score of 3. And, you know, he talks about this, he averages them out. And when you look at the average K scores, you're seeing stuff like Boros Monarch, Delver, Morosatron, Is It Delver, Dimir Alchemy, even Rallygond did well because it had a win and it had a couple of high placings. And it's a generally really interesting article and super cool to sort of get more information about the format and looking in terms of stuff other than just, you know, what won the challenge this week or, you know, what was the top 8. It really does a deep dive on it. So definitely go check that out.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
All right. It looks like we're getting pretty close to our general allotted time. Are we going to play some card guessing games here? And
we are.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me with some obscure Magic card that I'm probably going to forget.
2 and a blue, a rare from Odyssey.
Okay.
A 1/1 creature, shapeshifter. 3 and a blue, exile blank. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you do, that creature gains haste until end of turn. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice that creature. If you do, return blank to the battlefield.
Does this have the word Riptide in its name?
No, it does have the word doppelganger, though.
I don't actually know this one off the top of my head.
Shifty doppelganger.
Okay. That's a neat little effect. So it just kind of turns into something from your hand until end of turn.
Yeah.
Huh.
Up next, we have another creature. It is a creature, rat. 2 black, red, an uncommon from Dissension. I almost said it.
It's Hellhole Rats, I know.
All right. We'll might do that one. Oh, here's a good one from Guild Pact. A rare, legendary creature, Cyclops. Trample. Whenever blank deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control.
This is a card that interacts poorly with the card Pithing Needle in Modern. This would be Borber Rigmos, the original.
Why does it interact bad with Pithing Needle?
Did you forget this? There was a GP where in top 8, a player cast a Pithing Needle against some combo deck that featured Borber Rigmos Enraged.
Oh, the other one.
And
he just named Borber Rigmos?
Yes. So at competitive REL, when you're asked to name a card, if your selection must be a card that is legal in the format you are playing, and because both Borber Rigmos Enraged and Borber Rigmos are legal in Modern, when he said naming Borber Rigmos, that does not affect cards named Borber Rigmos Enraged, and it was this huge drama.
Well, it's also really terrible. Like Pithing Needle is also Pithing Needle doesn't do anything against this card.
The other one lets you pitch lands out of your hand to bolt something, I think.
Yes.
And this was some combo deck that used that as its win con, basically.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It was a big kerfuffle. But for those of you out there who are considering attending a GP where you may have to name cards that you might not remember the exact name of, call over a judge and describe the card to them if you can't remember the name. That will be enough. If a judge feels that you significantly can prove, if you can uniquely identify the card that you want to name with an effect, the judge will give it to you. Be careful. Magic play is interesting. Come on, give me another card.
All right. This is part of a cycle from Exodus. A 1 and a red for an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses target player who has more life than he or she does, and is his or her opponent. The first player may have blank deal 1 damage to the second player.
Oh, it's part of the Oath cycle. It's one of the ones that isn't vintage playable or even remotely playable. It's the red one.
It's the red Oath.
I'm gonna go with Oath. It's either mages or pyromancers.
It's mages.
There we go. Okay.
All right, I'll give you one more.
What do the rest of those actually do?
Let's just look at them. All right, we have. Oh, I got kerfluffled with the other oath, the new oaths. So, Oath of Druids, we all know. Oath of Ghouls is the black one. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses target player whose graveyard has fewer creatures in it than his or her graveyard does and is his or her opponent. The first player may return a creature card from his or her graveyard to his or her hand.
That is
the white one.
The black one has some very awkward wording.
We have the white one, Oath of Lieges. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses target player who controls more lands than he or she does and is his or her opponent. The first player may search his or her library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle his or her library. That's actually not bad.
No,
it's just not absolutely busted.
And the blue one is fewer cards in hand, if I remember right.
Yeah, and it's actually the only one that costs more. It's Oath of Scholars. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, the player chooses target players. The first player may discard his or her hand and draw 3 cards.
Huh. It's weird that they had to like phrase them in this very specific way so that they don't work in Two-Headed Giant of all places.
Yeah.
Weird. All right, give me one more out of the old randomizer.
One for the road. It's a 4-mana artifact from Mirage, a rare. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has 5 or less life, blank deals 2 damage to him or her. This is a very popular horror motif.
Is this Iron Maiden? No, Jesus. What am I doing? Hold on.
I'll give you one more guess. I'm pretty sure this is an Edgar Allan Poe story.
Oh, is this?
Yes, this is an Edgar Allan Poe story.
Yeah, you're referencing Cask of Amontillado, aren't you?
No.
No?
No.
Well, crap.
I'll tell you the name of the story. I'm referencing the pit and the...
Oh, the pendulum. Yeah.
What kind of pendulum?
I'm thinking through the adjectives that Magic card namers like.
It's also a terrible boomerang from Zendikar. The word that is used
razor pendulum. There we go.
Yes.
We got
razor pendulum.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I was really hoping when you started saying something about like if a player has less than, I was like, oh man, I know that in Mirage there's a card relevant to our format. I think it's Mirage at least.
Let me read the Razor Boomerang. Arguably, I mean, Sorrow's Path is like the flashy one. Razor Boomerang is definitely top 10 worst card printed. It's a 3-mana artifact from Worldwake. It's an equipment, so you have to equip it. Equipped creature has tap, unattached Razor Boomerang. Razor Boomerang deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Return Razor Boomerang to its owner's hand.
So for those at home, how much mana is that?
It's 5.
5 mana to ping something. That is
5 mana, so your creature can tap and ping something. It's real bad.
Ooh. See, I thought what it was gonna be because you started saying stuff about opponents having less than. I thought it was going to be Pauper's Cage, which
that's a good one.
Which is also actually from Mirage and uncomfortably a rare. It's like the worst rack style effect. All right, we've blabbed long enough. You want to take us out of the show, Adrian?
Certainly, Moink. Thanks for joining us today. This podcast is brought to you by the supportive patrons like you or not. Consider supporting us if you like the show. Check below this video or the description of this podcast for details on where to find us. We'd like to remind you that if you're listening to this on a platform with reviews, they're always appreciated because they boost our visibility. If you've got a deck list or an idea for a topic, please feel free to contact us either via our website or by emailing us directly at colorcommentary@gmail.com. Special thanks to Pat's Games and L. Till next week, this is Adrian and Mike, and we are signing off for Color Commentary.